サウナには今日入んなかったの？
入って。
入った？
うん。
で行こうか。
Bent on our destruction. So we need to, first of all, get them out of our country, get that regime out of our country, and then when we can figure out how to deal with it, then we can maybe have relations. But right now, China is extremely influential among, as I mentioned, all political sectors of the United States. So we need a president who is willing to, as they say, decouple and to start defending American interests, American friends and allies, because yes, we don't want a war, but the policies of the Biden administration showing weakness, showing inability to deal with China as China deals with us, is just encouraging Xi Jinping to become even more aggressive with regard to us, and that will lead to war. Bishop Jackson, we will be in a war with China unless something changes, and at least under Biden, I don't see things changing.
Do you see any indication that the seriousness of this issue is leading to anti-Asian bigotry or people responding inappropriately to people of Asian background as a result of this growing conflict with China? Because that's, of course, one of the things that's used to say whenever you criticize China, they throw that up. You're xenophobic, you're racist, and this is somehow harming our Asian citizens. You're a person of Asian background. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that if that is occurring, that criticism of Communist China is resulting in Asian American hate, it's a very insignificant factor. What is a greater factor is what Communist China is doing to employ Chinese Americans, for instance. When Chinese Americans fly the flag of the People's Republic of China, as they do, for instance, in San Francisco, it leads to legitimate questions on the part of other Americans as to the presence of Chinese Americans in America. I believe that Chinese Americans, First Amendment not only gives you the right to speak, it gives you the right not to speak. And Chinese Americans theoretically have a right not to speak. But so many Chinese Americans have spoken out in favor of an enemy, a country that considers the United States to be an enemy, that I believe that other Chinese Americans have an obligation to speak out. And the failure of Chinese Americans to speak out is a far more important factor in any Asian American hate, which I believe the statistics are grossly overstated. And they're grossly overstated to promote the agenda of the left.
Yeah, I mean, race is the magic bullet now. I mean, that's how you shut everything down. You shut people down because nobody wants to be called a racist. And that's what's always thrown out by the left. Now, back to this issue of conservatives and Republicans. You say, get China's influence out of our country. Is that the problem with them? Are they intertwined with Chinese business? Are they being influenced by Chinese, the folks who are lobbying in Washington, D.C.? What is it that's causing Republicans, who probably everyone would say, I'm against communism? What is this causing them to be receptive to communist China?
It's money. And you have Republican governors who have promoted Chinese investment in their states. And on one level, I can sort of understand that, but that helps the Communist Party influence states. And we also have, as I mentioned, free trade. Many Republicans are free traders. Free trade is great, but it values free trading. And it means that you can trade with a country that seeks to destroy the United States. And free traders say, well, that's okay. Well, it's not okay. And we have to deal with those types of issues, that we cannot afford to trade with a country that seeks our destruction. These are arguments that we've got to make it, and these are arguments that we are going to either win or lose our country because of the resolution of these issues.
Now, your Twitter handle is @GordonG.Chang. How else can people follow you, what you're writing, your speeches, whatever material you might have out there to help inform people who are interested in knowing more about this?
Yeah, I archive all my articles for free on my website, which is www.gordonchang.com. And of course, there's Twitter, which is, as you mentioned, @GordonG.Chang.
Yeah, I'm following you on Twitter now that I'm back to Twitter, and hope that it remains a really open forum rather than the censorship forum it had become. Look, this is a difficult topic to talk about, but you said you think we actually will end up at war with China. I mean, that's almost unthinkable. Is that one of the things that makes people want to shrink back from even addressing this issue?
Yes, and by shrinking back, we make war more probable. We have an armed forces that is not nearly as capable as it appears. We have a broken Navy, a broken Air Force, and we don't have a lot of weapons that the Chinese and the Russians have, like hypersonic cruise missiles, which can take our Navy to the bottom of the sea in very short order. And we also don't have
Gordon, I am so sorry. I know you've got to go, and I've got to take a break. Thank you so much. It's been highly informative. Back in a moment.
Well, thank you, Bishop Jackson. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Certainly one of the most widely read writers in the world is newspaper columnist Ann Landers. The popularity of her column is due in no small part to the fact that it deals with the actual life situations of people. In one of her columns, Ann Landers tells a very moving experience. A young mother of 3 children wrote Ann that a recently married couple had moved next door to them. Wanting to be neighborly, the young mother began sharing much of her baked goods with the newly married couple. One day, when she carried a few slices of a freshly baked orange sunshine cake to the couple, the bride handed her an envelope which was sealed and asked the mother of 3 not to open it until she got home. Back home, the envelope was opened and the contents were a heartwarming surprise. Do you know what was in that envelope? The lady asked Ann Landers. 40 slips of paper, and on each was written, "This entitles you to 1 night out. I will be your babysitter." The young bride, working to help put her husband through law school, found an excellent method of expressing her appreciation for all that her neighbor had done for her. All of us, no matter how poor or handicapped, have something to give. Each has a talent through which we can show appreciation and make the world a little brighter. The carpenter taught that just a cup of cold water given in his name would go a long way in making the world a better place to live in. Do you remember the child story we all heard when we were growing up? The little boy was passing through the jungle when he heard an awful groan. On inspection, he discovered that it came from a lion that had a thorn in its paw. The little lad was afraid of the lion and didn't know what to do. He hated to see the lion suffer, but he knew that lions ate people. Finally, the little boy went over and pulled out the thorn from the lion's paw. Quickly, the little boy scooted along his way. Years later, as a grown man, he found himself cast into the lion's den because of evil men. However, the lion that was supposed to attack him came and licked his face. You see, it was the same lion from which the man had pulled a thorn from its paw years before. Regardless of how it may seem, little kind deeds are not forgotten. They make a very definite and a very favorable impression on those they're done to. And certainly they help even those who do them. If you doubt it, ask the lady who received the 40 babysitting tickets. Or if you can be a child for a moment, you can even ask the little boy who pulled the thorn from the lion's paw. A little kindness given is a little kindness received.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Awakening. The Awakening. Download and listen at your leisure with the podcast page at afr.net. Now, back to our host, Bishop E.W. Jackson.
You all remember what I said a while ago, and I've said this in the context usually of Ilhan Omar, and she was just doing it recently, as a matter of fact, talking about how Americans need to stop persecuting people, and we're doing so much. And I'm thinking to myself, this woman escaped near death getting out of Somalia, comes to a country in which she is elected to the United States Congress, and she's got the nerve to lecture us about the fact that we are persecuting people when she and her family had to escape with their lives. And where did they come? To the United States of America. Remember I said that in my view, any naturalized citizen should be on probation for a while. We should find out where that person's coming from. We should take them.
ちょっとガソリン入れるからちょっと待って。
Enjoy special offers and savings. Sign up for our rewards program today. Grab a beverage inside today. Grab a beverage inside today. Cool down with a Polar Pop Cup inside because it stays colder longer. Cool down with a Polar Pop Cup inside.
Behavior of the communist Chinese and justify them, and then finance all the criticisms and hatred that the left expresses against our country. As far as I'm concerned, you're not worth me turning on my television to watch you. Now that's just the way I feel about it. But look, folks, he said, might be the second headline. We've got to get the communist Chinese influence out of our country. See, that's part of it to me. If you got Americans who want to fly the flag of the Communist Party of China, now we're not talking, as far as I'm concerned, about a matter of free speech. Now we're talking about national security. Now we're talking about having people in our country who would fight against us from within in behalf of an enemy from without. That's not anti-Asian, because frankly, I believe there are people from all kinds of backgrounds who really are so enamored of and have such a romanticized view of communism that they would fight with almost any communist country against us because they like them and they don't like us. They're American citizens, but they like them, they like these communists, but they don't like us. I mean, for example, when Representative Judy Chu had it exposed that she has ties to Communist China, what was the first thing that was said? By people like Hakeem Jeffries, lying Adam Schiff. What was the first thing they said? Racism, xenophobia, you can't say that. You're claiming that she's disloyal. But the fact of the matter is, she does have documented ties to the Communist Chinese. So again, since I don't do what the left does and just call names and say things, she served as the honorary president of the All-American Chinese Youth Federation since 2012 and was appointed the honorary chairwoman of the Forums for Peaceful Reunification of China. That means China taking over Taiwan in 2019. And of the leadership of the All-American Chinese Youth Federation, 5 of their influential leaders belong to, or at least this is what our intelligence assets tell us, belong to the Chinese Communist Party. So she also, by the way, these in supporting the Forum for the Peaceful Reunification of China, they oppose Taiwanese independence. America's at least taken a hands-off approach, but we support. Let's put it this way: we verbally assented to the One China policy, but we internally support Taiwanese independence. You have to figure that one out for yourself, because I don't quite get that one either. But this thing she belongs to is considered a front group for the Chinese Communist Party. So, raising these questions about her, you're not just making stuff up out of whole cloth. These are legitimate questions. And see, I've said it in a different way. I've said what we need is a national security audit, which means we need to take a look at everything, every institution in our country, and ask the fundamental question: does Communist China have influence in this institution? Every college, every university, every corporation, every institution of cultural influence. You've got to ask the question: does the Chinese Communist Party have influence there? And if they do, get them out. What property do they own in America? What businesses do they own in America? What farmland do they own in America? All of that needs to be fleshed out, because where they have influence in our country, they've got to go. Because, by the way, this is an effort by the Communist Chinese to control the world. They're doing this all over the world. They want to turn America into their vassal. They want to turn America basically into a satellite of the Communist Party of China. Xi Jinping recently told his soldiers, get ready to fight and win. Now,
evangelize the lost and disciple the believer. AFA aims to strengthen biblical marriages and equip parents to raise godly children. These values and more are part of our mission to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. We want to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. Thank you for standing with us.
What if your parents abandon you? This is Bible League International. In the Philippines, 3-year-old Casey was left in an orphanage by her own parents. She never saw her mother again. But enter the hope of the gospel in Grandma Nitz, who pointed Casey to Christ. Today at 18, Casey is teaching orphans to know and love Jesus, and they need Bibles in Asia. You can send one for only $5. $60 sends 12, every gift matched. Call 800-YES-WORD, 800-YES-WORD, or sendbiblesnow.org. Sendbiblesnow.org. This is Bible League International. Many women in the Middle East are treated as less valuable, forced to marry young, and denied an education, meaning that many cannot read or write. So Bible League is giving them the gift of literacy and dignity and showing them God's great love. Magda was asked by her husband to skip these literacy classes, but she endured and something beautiful came about. Learn what she did to win her extremist husband over. Hear it all now. It's only 15 minutes and free of charge at BibleLeague.org/podcast. BibleLeague.org/podcast.
You know, God did not tap on my shoulder and, you know, sweetly and quietly say, come back to me, Abby. It was like a loud, thunderous lion, right, roaring back into my life.
This is Focus on the Family Minute with Abby Johnson.
He was fiercely protective of me because I was his child. And that is how God has been for me. That is how the Lord has been for me in this transition, in this conversion in my life. You know, he is jealous for me. He is jealous for my soul, for my life. And I think that sometimes we miss that.
Hear more about God's mercy changing Abby's heart and how she found her calling at FamilyMinute.org. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
Back to the Awakening with Bishop E.W. Jackson on American Family Radio.
888-589-8840 is the number. Let's come back to your calls. Let's go to Mike in Indiana. Mike, welcome.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I just want to say that I'm glad that you're drawing attention to all the distractions the Democrats are trying to put in front of us. I know that, like in Texas last week, another 4-year-old shot a 3-year-old with a gun, but, you know, that's just a distraction. We need to ignore that and focus on real issues. And here in Indiana recently, yet another Christian pastor was arrested for raping multiple teenagers, but that's just a distraction. We need to focus on real issues like drag shows and taking mansions away from rich people to give to black people, because reparations are a real thing that everyone's obviously talking about in a real way. So yeah, I appreciate you helping us avoid distractions and talk about real things.
Okay, Mike. Well, that was a nice try, but appreciate the call. Let's go to Mary in Texas. Mary, welcome.
Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate your show and the truth that you radiate. My question is, where is justice? I was thinking about Martha Stewart. I was thinking about the Enrons who went to prison for what they did to Enron. I was thinking out, is it Bernie Madoff sitting in prison? And all those who had a pyramid scheme. These people committed fraud, deception. They were negligent at the jobs they were given. They all should be sitting in jail. And for that FTX CEO, I could not believe he is sitting at home in his parents' house, not in prison. And look what he defrauded all those people. And their money's gone. And for those people in Congress who took money from FTX, how come they're not accessories to the fact? And that one congressman who gave his money that he used from FTX to charity, it wasn't his money to give. It was stolen property.
said, our criminal justice system is no longer pure, simply enforcing the law. It has been politicized by the left. And if you're on the right side of issues, for the most part, you get a pass. Now there might be exceptions, but it's just like the corrupt official who says to the cartel member, listen, every now and then you got to throw us a bone, right? We got to keep up appearances, so throw us some low-level people or somebody that can be a sacrificial lamb, and then we go back to business as usual. And I think the same thing happens with the left. It could be likened much more to a criminal enterprise than politics in a free society. So you're right, Mary. Let's go to George in Texas. George, welcome.
Well, thank you. Number one, I'm 80 years old. Number two, I saw headlines in the late 50s when Khrushchev came and said that we will take over the United States from within and will not fire a shot. They've been doing a great job, and the Democratic Party has went into communism, but we keep calling them Democrats, so the vast majority of people that are on the right talking about this, all the, Hannitys and so forth, they got a lot of it wrong because we're in a war. And when we call Democrats stupid and idiots, what are they thinking? This is a war. They want to do this. They're thinking exactly the way they want to think and doing what they want to do, and that's destroy the country, take it over from within. That's where we're at. And the vast majority of people on the right pulpit are not really educating the people out there listening exactly what's happening. But that's what's happening.
Okay. All right, George, listen, I think you are right in the sense a lot of Christians and a lot of politicians too do not understand the gravity of the situation. They're still treating this like politics as usual and business as usual, when in fact we are under grave threat of losing our country. That's the way I see it, folks. And I think a lot of Christians just think business as usual and we go, well, everything is fine. They're going to look up one day. It's like the old saying about I forget who it was who said it, but first they came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Jehovah's Witnesses, I wasn't Jehovah's Witness, and so on and so forth. And then they came for me, but there was nobody left to defend me. And I think people simply are thinking, well, it doesn't really affect my life per se, but it will. It will. Let's go to Chris in Mississippi. Chris, welcome.
And thank you, Mr. Jackson, Bishop Jackson. I was wanting to, just like your previous caller was talking about, if you cannot see it as a spiritual war, a Luciferian system against God's system, or the world against God, yeah. That's all. Everything that doesn't make sense, common sense to us, that's what it makes sense with. But I can't really tell you about, I had a Bank of America credit card or credit limit of $15,000 back in 2020, and that's back when all the riots were happening. And they sent out a little email to me saying, how do you like banking with us? And I kind of got similar replies saying, I don't appreciate y'all giving millions of dollars to a Marxist organization that really is not helping black people, because there's a lot better places you can spend that money. And 3 days later, I got an email saying that my account was canceled and they had no more dealings with me. No formal written letter. And, I told a lot of people about it. They're like, well, I don't know if I believe that. And then that was before all the stuff came out with the Russiagate and all the, but I guess the point is, yes, we're going to be, even our text messages will be brought up later on, and the enemy will come after us and say, well, they're Christians, so let's destroy their economy, or let's destroy their livelihood. So we better get ready, for that's coming.
Chris, I here again, brother, I agree with you. Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry that that's happened, but this is what I mean about, folks. Marxism politicizes everything. So even the corporate world is politicized. You can't express an opinion, suddenly your account is gone. And by the way, I don't doubt that a bit. I don't doubt it at all, because we know that banks are doing this stuff now. They're canceling people's accounts because they find out what their politics are and they don't like it. And by the way, in keeping with what the last caller said about he was trying to be a little cute, but here's the bottom line issue we all know. It's the rejection of God. That's the bottom line issue that's behind all of this. So there's no question. We raised that plenty, and we also get into the details of what